Okay, so who here has watched the Titanic? All right, most of you. Okay, if you haven't, you haven't learned. So in the Titanic, the movie's based on mostly about Rose's story, her point of view, and her version of what happens on the Titanic. At the beginning of the story, you experience Rose feeling like she's trapped inside. She says like she's screaming on the outside, but on the on the inside, but on the outside she has to put up the front, make it like she's fine being on the Titanic. Why does Rose feel this way? Can anyone tell me why Rose feels this way? Anyone? No?
I can.
Oh, okay.
Because of her man.
Because of her man? Alright. So, right. There are people in her life that are trying to control her future and are trying to really, like, feel her feel trapped. So, the way she communicates, she's not really communicating. Her feelings and her thoughts are something that is in her head and she can't express. So, like Rose, there are many people who can't express themselves, who lack communication because of they're being overshadowed by a dominant group. No.
Oh.
No.
I was like, I thought you looked at me.
No. I'm trying to remember.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. So. Oh my god. I'm stuck. Like, 0. Right. So as a member of society, I wanted to know why there's this imbalance between men and women, and why do they get certain privileges and some women don't. So, like Rose, many of us have felt like we weren't able to voice our thoughts. And the me group theory explains this phenomenon. Why is this important? Everybody in this room is affected by the me group theory. Why? Because everyone in this room has been either told or to do something that we didn't want to do, or a decision was made for us and we didn't want it to be made. So oh my god. So by learning about the me group theory, you'll have a better understanding of how women and other minority groups are misrepresented in society. So first I will discuss with you what me group theory is, examples of me group theory, and a personal experience on how I was able to understand me group theory. Okay. So me group theory is an explanation of communication and social representation of women and other minority groups, how their language is shaped by a dominant group, and making communication for the minority group effective for them. Okay. In order to get a better understanding of what the me group theory is, we first must explore some background information. Published in 1975, The Belief of the Problem of Women explains that me group theory is yeah, it's right there. So another work published in 2011, The Theories of Human Communication, explains that Edwin Arner was a social anthropologist, and his job was to study cultures of many people. And one of the things that he noticed while working with other anthropologists was that that many of the wordings or how they're used to describe certain things in the culture was by using masculinity in their words, kind of like Mr. or history. This is Edwin Arner, and that's his wife, Shirley. Shirley explains in her many works why that not only is me group theory about women, but also about women who feel suppressed when it comes to communication and language. Okay. All right, so what do you see here? We see a bunch of shows and movies. The most obvious example that I can show you is the Green Lantern. In the comic books, he's a black man. He's African American. But in the movies, they show him as a white man. So this is an example of media theory because the roles are switched. Another example is the Prince of Persia. The title says clearly the Prince of Persia, but the prince is played by a white man. In this movie, Scarface. Now most movies, characters who are in like mobs or are drug dealers, they usually have a backstory to why they are the way they are. And usually those people are white males. In Scarface, he is portrayed as ruthless, and he portrays a Latino man, but the character is not even Latino, he is Italian. Okay, so...
Don't worry about it.
Okay. Alright, so now that I've told you a little bit about the background of regroup theory, and I shared with you some examples, I will now show you a real life example, or tell you about a real life example that happened. According to an article in Washington Post, posted on February 16, 2012, there was a birth control hearing in Capitol Hill, and this was discussing whether or not President Obama had offended religious freedoms by recent mandate of health insurance companies covering So, birth control is a topic that's mainly about women, and yet the representatives on this hearing were all men. And in reading this article, I noticed that a lot of women really didn't like this. And I found it very interesting because even there was a speaker who wanted to speak at this hearing, and she wasn't able to. She was told physically no. And yeah. Okay, I have to move on to my third. Okay, so now that I shared with you an example of real life, I'll now share with you a personal experience. So last week, I went to a retreat, a Catholic women's retreat, and it was in the Sports Arena Center in LA, and I went with my mom and with her friends. And during the entire time, and it was the whole day, they had guest speakers and performers, and they talked about what it was to be a Catholic woman and many issues of how we experience every day. The main topics were marriage, family, and how we should lead our lives. Most of the guest speakers were men. And I found this interesting because men were telling the women, the whole audience was of women, and they were telling us how we should live our lives, how we should overcome our fears, but yet they're men and they're different. Why is a man telling me how to live my life? Does he know what it's like to be a woman? After this event, I understood what me group theory was. I understood that this is not just something that just happened to me. It happens around the world. It affects everyone's life. So it made me think that this story of mine is not the only one that's out there. So now that I've shared with you a personal experience, I'll wrap things up. By learning about the new group theory, you have a better understanding of women and other minority groups misrepresented in society. First, I shared with you some background information, some examples of the new group theory, and a personal experience. And now that you know what the new group theory is, I hope that that's made you think what it may be like for people to rely on language that was made for them than rather by them.